Alright guys, in this video we're going to talk about our back leg post during the leg lift phase. So what the back leg post essentially is as you lift up, you want to keep a strong, sturdy, and stable back leg. So what that kind of looks like is as we go to lift into peak leg lift, our leg, we have a slight bend as we talked about with coming set, but we don't want to come into leg lift and drop. So what it should look like is as you come into leg lift, you're pretty stable, with just a slight bend in that back leg. So I did an assessment of 20 randomly selected major league players, most of them being in the top 20 hardest throwing velocity this past year in 2022. And the average angle that we found out, that we looked at of their knee flexion, which essentially knee flexion is how much bend you have at peak leg lift, was at 147.5 degrees. So essentially that would look something similar to about where I'm at right there at peak leg lift, so somewhere about right in there. There were two outliers, one being 127 degrees, so they kind of dropped down a little bit more into that back leg post, and then the other outlier at the high end of the range was 159 degrees. The majority of pros were between 140 and 155. I'll put some of those guys up on the screen for you to take a look at now. But essentially what we want to do is we want to make sure that as we're coming into leg lift, that we're keeping sturdy with this back leg. That's going to help us drift towards our target. So as we come up, think stay sturdy there. As we come up, think stay sturdy there. That'll help us start to project off of the mound. What we don't want is as we're lifting up with our lead leg, our back leg and knee is going into a high degree of knee flexion. So that would look like this. And so some of the reason we don't want to do that, two main reasons. One, a lot of times if we're over bending the knee and going into knee flexion, what happens is essentially is our weight, as we're starting to load the back leg, is starting to go out and load our quad. Remember, we want to drop into the glute as we load into our hinge position. If we start bending our knee, that's going to cause essentially all of our weight to go into the quad. So as we drop down, we're going to go out that way. One thing you can look at as a coach, if you see a guy where his knee is shooting over his toe and he has a really high angle of knee flexion there, odds are he's not keeping the back leg post. So again, coming here and bending, we're going to load that quad. Number two, the other thing is, remember, we want to make sure that we're dropping and driving, or driving and dropping at the same rate, and we're using the slope of the mound. If we're going into leg lift and we're bending and we're crouching down like that, that's already presetting a lot of our drop during our leg lift. We want to make sure that as we're moving towards target, we're driving and dropping at the same rate into our hinge. If we're going and already dropping here, then we pretty much just have a straight out linear move from there. So to recap, want to make sure that we're in between that 140 and 155 degree range of knee flexion. I'll show what that looks like on your screen now. And then what we want to do is we want to hold that post all the way through our leg lift. So as we're coming up to peak leg lift, hold it, and then we'll begin to start to decline as we go into leg decline.